Nope.
No.
Oh,
That's the end screen.
didn't mean to do that.
We need a picture of that girl with the clown puppet, don't we?
Yeah, I saw a picture of her, and she was like 60 or something.
Huh.
Yeah, it's obviously a while ago.
Ah,
Right.
Yeah, here we are. Welcome to a new episode of YEV. My name's Tim Aylan, and I'm joined with Alex Grant and Kevin Booker. And Kevin looks like he's been to Willy Wonka's factory, and he's done the Mike TV, and he's
I've just realised that this camera
Kevin.
is now further away from me because I've moved around here. So I've made more space. So I need to be closer.
So
we haven't got the budget for full size Kevin, so we've living costs and all the rest of it. We've got to go for it.
Big deal.
Snack size.
Multiple world records, Alex. So
after 6, I have to be. This is the cheaper version, is it? There's only not got quite 6 Guinness World Records or something.
I ordered them off AliExpress. When you order something from Amazon or something, and it arrives and it's like, hang on, I thought I bought Sol beer that was full size, not like miniature. But anyway, we digress because today we are going to be talking about the budget 2025 and also how wrong I got it last week.
On
paper
same.
Now, I will say that I didn't actually get it wrong because I just read into the transport secretary who said that we're not going to be doing it, and then Rachel Reeves comes out with a magic briefcase, Rachel from accounts, and hits us with the paper mile. Shall we hit paper mile first and then start filtering down into not only just EVs but also PHEVs, so plug-in hybrids, and probably ICE cars as well. I think what the potential damages are for that in terms of the fuel freezes, etc. You guys happy with that?
Yeah.
I think it seems a safe place to start, given how much coverage it's had this week.
But to be fair, what we should have done is we should have leaked this podcast 45 minutes before the podcast. Then it would have matched the budget. Nice,
Kevin. Yeah, for people that don't know what Kevin's on about there, there was a leak before the proper budget came out, and I did listen to the budget during a lunch break. You heard the jeerings in the background as I was having my sandwich, but paper miles. So Rachel Reeves, although she is very unsure about MOTs on vehicles that are a year and 2 years old, assuming that they have an MOT, that paper mile is going to be coming in at 2028 after a public consultation. But I mean, in reality, and as we've covered in the last couple of episodes on paper mile, we're pretty kind of confident that I think they're going to struggle, other than actually just saying, okay, every year a vehicle needs to go to an MOT place and get a mileage check. I don't think they're going to go down the route of tracking. They better not be, because they're not tracking me. Although I know they can track my phone, Kevin. I know you're going to come with that. But what about you guys? Have you got anything else to add on the paper mile since they've announced it?
I think it's quite. I think it's quite an interesting. Everything I said, other than it won't come in, and I think it's probably just a rumor. I stand by. I think it's an incredibly complicated thing to get right. It adds a huge administrative burden, given that EVs are mostly still bought by fleets. So either fleets or leasing companies are going to have to deal with this kind of, burden of, making sure people have their mileage checks and stuff. It's another thing to put onto to those fleets, although they are obviously buying EVs en masse. It's interesting that the consultation came out on the same day, so that the proposal, as you say, is that the vehicle owner, it says in it, which is kind of a little bit of a limited wording in itself because most EVs are leased. The vehicle owner, one assumes that means user rather than the owner, otherwise it falls on the leasing company. That's something they're going to have to get quite right when they get the final wording through. We'll have to kind of self-report, and they can either pay in advance, in which case it can actually be, the document actually suggests it could be loaded onto the on-the-road price for these vehicles, and then at the end of the year you can get it credited back. They're still deciding the working details on it, but to my mind, it's not as unfair as some people have listed, or necessarily even as premature. It just feels a little bit Heath Robinson in terms of how they've done it. I'm not overly impressed with the execution. There's no easy way of doing it, obviously, unless you're rolling out billions of pounds worth of black boxes to lots and lots and lots of cars all over the country. It won't be billions yet, but it will eventually be billions of pounds to do this. There's no revenue in it. It feels a little bit half-cocked, and there's no money in it. And for all I know, it might go through the consultation process. They might discover that it's not going to work, and then by 2028, will we have had an election by 2028? Not quite.
Close.
So who knows? I mean, who knows where it'll go? It might not even get through to become law. My suspicion is it probably will, but it just feels like a very half-cocked policy to me.
I think the people that, are up in arms and, they said, they weren't going to, well, I say they weren't. It's the same as diesel, starting charges. That was always going to come. It was always too good to be true with the electric stuff that they were going to start hammering more charges on this. So I think it was always going to come. And I think that 3p will always creep if and when it does come in. And again, they've been threatening to put in paper mile tax for quite some time now. So it was always going to come, but it's just going to be really interesting how they're going to implement it when, they're not the best at implementing such things. Well, and, they could just change their mind, look, like they quite often do with anything to do with EV.
It's interesting on the implementation, you said, because when the consultation was launched, it was launched on the day, and it said commence from the day it was launched. And your submissions had to be in by March 2025. So they're trying to mandate kind of paper mile, and they can't even get the dates right on the consultation paper.
Yeah, and how you go about managing this, I mean, from a kind of a practicality perspective, there is obviously a potential for it to end up with people either being in arrears or having the complexity of trying to claim back money, the systems in terms of how that all operates. And actually, some of the sums in the document were a little bit on the iffy side, because they were saying they reckon it was going to cost about £250 a month. Well, I mean, if you think about those vehicles being company cars, I mean, I'll kind of go on so there's an association that looks after all the rental leasing companies. It's called the British Vehicle Rental and Leasing Association, and they put out quarterly figures. It's something like 15,000 miles a year that is the average business contract hire length. So that's the sort of mileage that people are doing, not the 8,900, which is an average across obviously a much wider pool that includes probably some people who own early EVs that are only using them on low mileage. So if you think about it on a 14,000 mile, it's about 450 quid a year in additional VED, which is more than the next thing that we should probably talk about, which is the adjustment to the expensive car supplement.
Yep, £420.
That's a chunk of money. It's a chunk of money, and that's obviously. But even then, if you look at it from that point of view, if you take that as being like an equivalent to fuel duty, so you think of it as a per mile charge, rather like you have on fuel duty, even though they're calling it EVD, which I find a little bit confusing. It's still cheaper per mile, considerably cheaper per mile. I mean, I've done the sums. It's somewhere in the region of about 65 to 70 miles per gallon equivalent lifetime average you'd need to get in an EV, in a petrol or diesel car to come close to that. And obviously that's based on...
Is that charging costs overnight?
So that's home charging costs at the standard flat rate tariff. So this is if you are a lazy so-and-so like me and you haven't moved on to a dual rate tariff yet. Even then, it's still significantly cheaper than petrol or diesel. So, yeah. Obviously, that depends on what you drive. If you drive something really inefficient and electric, then the sums become a little bit trickier. But even then, I think it's still cheaper.
Yeah, there's a lot of variables in that, isn't it? Cost per kilowatt hour, what the efficiency of your vehicle is. But that's an interesting stat. I just wanted to kind of clarify that for people, really. Okay, so standard rate, you're talking 25 pence per kilowatt hour then?
Yeah, it's about 20. Yeah, it's about 25p. I can't remember exactly what it is. I can get the figures back up. I did a load of calculations the other day trying to work out the actual impact on it, and that's based on a Model Y long range as well. So that's not
nice efficient car. What really makes me laugh is loads of people going, and I've already had it on a lot of my videos already. Oh, EV owners, 3p per mile. Oh, taking the mick, the EV haters out there. It's just like, you wait, because that's not till 2028. But what they do in fuel duty? They're unfreezing it, right? So it's going up. Is it 5p by next year September?
So the announcement and the budget documents say different things on this. I'm sure in the announcement that she said that they are unfreezing fuel duty, but the budget document seems to suggest that the 5p freeze is the bit that's coming off, which is the other way around.
Right. Okay.
So, yeah.
If you need to get that, you get that. Me and Kev will crack on.
Yeah, I will be right back.
No worries.
Yeah,
Kev, what have you seen? Because I know that you're very active on LinkedIn. Have you seen much EV hating on the 3 pence stuff?
So weirdly, I've seen less from the usual places, and because I think they realise that there's the potential for it to come to ICE vehicles. So, in addition, I mean, the one thing that I find challenging for this. So fuel duty is one of those things that, if you can basically, if you can't afford it, you cannot go as far for a month. But this VED thing, you're paying it in advance. Some people might not have that £600 or whatever it comes to. And at the moment, they might pay their road tax monthly. There doesn't seem to be an option to do that with this thing. So it could price some people who are struggling off the roads because they won't be able to pay it in advance. It doesn't appear to be anything about monthly. And the thing is, you can choose to drive less with that. So either you choose to put a less figure in and you pay in arrears. So it's at least fuel duty. You've got the ability to pay as you go. And this doesn't seem to have a pay as you go element at the moment. Maybe the consultation will bring that out. But I mean, I think that's what hurts people as well. And you think it does add to the cost. And I still, like I said last week, there's no encouragement for an efficient EV. If you're buying a much cheaper EV, you're still being penalised the same as if you buy a big inefficient EV. It's not a fair comparison, is it? A Leap Motor T03, one of the cheapest EVs, or a Dacia Spring, 3 pence a mile. £90,000 EV9 Ioniq 9, 3 pence a mile. It's not encouraging people who, the people who can afford those £90,000 cars, probably are more capable of paying it than someone who's buying a budget Dacia Spring.
It's a great point that you made. That point you made last time we were talking about it, and it's still absolutely valid now. And I think you're bob on, Kev. I think that really does need to come into it because, ultimately, an EV9 is like near on 3 ton, and one of the little what they called Leap Motor things. I mean, they weigh about as much as my rucksack on a busy day. So let me just go through the comments because I was too busy on my new toys. I found a soundboard, guys. So get ready for that. Hopefully, I won't annoy many people with it. But Malcolm's got. I think it's being brought in far too early. Only 5% of cars on the roads are EV, and this will definitely slow down EV adoption. Malcolm, I completely agree. However, and interested to know Alex and Kev's point on this, but I think this is where the fuel duty thing will come in and be like, hang on a minute. Oh, okay, EV's got to pay X per mile, but hang on, the petrol start going up and diesel starts going up now. Okay, this is starting to be a bit more level, maybe even more so positive from an EV point of view. Now I've got to go and let my dog out. Sorry.
You're on mute.
I'm not sure got what you guys covered while I was away. 5p per mile, obviously, on a is about 23p per gallon, 23p a gallon in fuel duty. If you're on 50 miles per gallon, it's not a vast amount of it's about half a penny per mile, isn't it? In terms of fuel duty. So I mean, it is going to go up, but it's not going to go up much. The one thing I would say with EVED is that the consultation flip-flops between calling it VED and calling it and referring to fuel duty losses. I mean, it's recovering the loss of fuel duty or the reduction in fuel duty. Some graphs in there showing it's going to go down from about 25 million. I've written in my notes 25 billion, but I'm assuming it's 25 million. Down to about 5, they're down to about 12 in the 2030s and about 5 in 2050. So talking about the loss of fuel duty, but they're recovering it via what they're calling VED, vehicle excise duty, or road tax, as we might call it. They're quite different in terms of what is going back to that kind of key market. If you're operating a company car fleet or you have a salary sacrifice scheme going, at the moment, if your drivers are out and about in electric cars that you own, which you would in either of those scenarios, you own you're leasing those vehicles, you would ordinarily have the VED included in the lease costs, yeah? But you wouldn't have the fuel duty included in the lease costs. So if your drivers are off and they're doing, if you're especially for something like salary sacrifice or more sort of perk type company car schemes, if your drivers are off doing like loads of miles down to like the south of France or whatever, who picks up the EVED cost for that mileage? Because you as a fleet operator wouldn't normally pick up the fuel duty on that sort of journey. Talking obviously international journeys, but what happens with private mileage? And are we going to end up with situations where you've got company car fleets doing a bit of both and trying to work out a rough split? It all becomes quite complicated in terms of the way they're doing it. It just feels very impractical.
Yeah, it's the same as if you think that, I think the hope is there'll be a lot of overpayment. Because, for example, my car, I'm on a 12,000 mile a year lease. If it's done through the taxation system, the leasing company will pay that because I said I'm doing that many miles, and they'll price it in accordingly. People aren't going to be able to easily get it back because by the time you get to the end of your lease, you're 3 years down the line. You won't be able to claim back for year 1, 2, and 3. So I think that the hope is overpayment. And the other thing we need to put this in perspective is, I think, like we saw in the interviews that the Chancellor appeared not to know about MOTs and stuff, people don't realise kilowatt hour versus gallon or litre. Because you work out, so you think 3 pence a mile, not that bad. So your average car does 3.5 miles per kilowatt hour. So that you are adding nearly 10.5 pence to charge. So your flat rate for charging before electricity costs will be 10.5 pence on a cheap rate tariff before you've started anything else. So you're actually making effectively a flat rate off peak of 20 pence per kilowatt hour. I mean, I'm taking 3.5 miles per kilowatt hour as an average kind of, that seems to be the average efficiency for most EVs in general. I mean, yes, you can get more, yes, you can get less, but you think that's actually a significant cost when you start thinking about it in that. And I think we've always talked about this, is there's no people in government with the EV knowledge. Because I think a lot of people are just assuming a kilowatt hour is like a gallon. You're getting 40 odd miles to it, but you're not. It's a very different thing, which is why I think public charging and all those things haven't really been considered. You put that up to, it's going to be over £1. So I charged on Instavolt. It was 89 pence. So that would put that up to almost £1 a kilowatt hour. Would be 99.5 pence for public charging, which is a lot of money. It's a big mathematical. You work out that's over 20 pence, 28 pence a mile.
I think it is also worth looking at it in terms of, I mean, in the US they do MPGE, don't they? So miles per gallon equivalent. I was having a discussion with somebody about this on Friday and trying to sort of get this idea across that actually it'd be quite interesting to compare the other way around and publish fueled vehicles in miles per kilowatt hour. Because at 45 miles per gallon, you're at 1 mile per kilowatt hour. So it just as a relative thing, there's about 10 or 11 kilowatt hours in a litre of fuel, depending on whether it's petrol or diesel. I think it's 9 for petrol and 11 for diesel. But for sake of argument, if you call it 10, somewhere in the middle, 45 miles per gallon is 45 miles per 45 kilowatt hours. Kind of gives you a perspective in terms of how inefficient those vehicles are in terms of efficiency and energy usage and so on.
No, it's interesting. And I like Kev's way of explaining it, putting it on the actual cost per kilowatt hour. It's a great way of looking at it. And that doesn't sound very fair at all, does it? And funnily enough, Roland just put in just before this comment from Malcolm that not adverse to the concept as long as it's fair. And this is what I kept on banging on about last time. And my frustration is, getting value for money. Oh, we're going to be spending it on the roads. Are they just going to be plugging the potholes that are going to get?
It's not ring fenced. That was another thing that annoyed me about the consultation.
Oh, was it not?
Look through it. No, VED is not ring fenced. That's why I don't call it road tax.
There we go. So in my mind, bearing in mind, not only my wife has curbed a wheel on the Tesla, next door neighbor, recent video I put out, he changed from his diesel truck to a Tesla after giving me a load of SHIT for about 4 years. They had a flat tire from a pothole the other day. There's potholes everywhere now. It's got cold and all the rest of it. They just need to do it right in the first place. So, they can package it as they're going to sort out the roads. But again, it's that value thing. What are they actually going to be spending it on? And this comes to the other point I was going to make is I think that if they are going to be putting it in, I think they're going to be quite desperate for money. So I think that they'll ask for it in advance rather than after the year. That's, I think, from a business case sense point of view. And if they are desperate for money, which I think they certainly are, then I think that's probably the way that they'll go. But I'm just going to get through some of these comments, guys, because I've kind of not gone for any of them. So Malcolm, the only reason I can think of them introducing it now is the idea of paper mile established while it affects relatively few drivers to avoid a massive backlash. That's a really good point, Malcolm. Very good point. And of course, all the anti-EV types are fully supportive of what they think of as an EV tax, not realizing it's likely to be extended to all vehicles once established.
Well, that's what surprised me is lots of the anti-EV people you'd expect to be saying it about it haven't been. So, I mean, they've actually have thought that, hang on, this could quite easily switch to ICE vehicles, and will they get rid of all the fuel duty? Maybe not. Maybe it'll just be an additional charge. It's a quick win. You could use it as a weapon to get ICE vehicles off the road to say, well, they're going to pay it as well because it's not fair that they're polluting. You just, you don't know how it's going to play out.
I don't think Scott Ticket Please has ever commented before. I love the picture. It looks like meat. All this is nonsense. Normal folk against each other whilst we should be out on the street cause this lot are ripping it. I'm guessing that's basically saying that it's only minor stuff and really we should just get them chucked out. Derek Nichols, I saw someone work out tax on petrol works out an average of 8 pence per mile. Don't shoot the messenger if wrong. Thanks for that insight. If it is right. Commuter branch line, Malcolm is right. The only 5% of the cars being EV, the revenue raised is tiny compared to the revenue lost due to frozen fuel duty. They do this after reinstating the EV grant. What mixed messages? Absolutely. Trevor, I don't quite understand. I thought all EVs were paying £190 a year tax. So why the 3p a mile? It's because that's just road tax rather than the tax that they put on fuel. That's what they are representing here in this pence per mile. Just another tax.
And remember, it's index linked. So next after April it's 205.
Yeah, really. Oh, joy. I've got to tax both of mine at some point. I think I'm probably going to go on the monthlies on them this time. I believe they are proposing you can pay monthly. Well, we'll see on that one. Don't forget the combustion new car ban edging ever closer. Yeah, on new cars, that is. Very mixed signals indeed. EVs will still be much cheaper to run, but that's lost in the media frenzy surrounding EV paper mile. Yeah, absolutely. The government has no clue on what mechanism will be used to implement this new tax. Will the scheme be scrapped before 2028? It will be election year, and it's a long way away. Yeah, I personally think that I've got a sneaky feeling that the reform will probably use that as a bit of a lever. But let's say that there's not that many people with EVs, so maybe they won't.
It's not a big vote winner with reform, is it?
No, they're all about reducing energy price as a positive EV thing. Not that they're trying to be positive with EV, because I've had a few people on my channel with reform on their image, giving it some negative EV views.
What we've got to think about as well is it's all very well, this 3 pence a mile. Most of the people here probably have the ability to charge at home, so it's cheaper. But what are they going to do? There's going to be a massive inequity with people paying £1 a kilowatt, and there's no solution for them. So the people who can least afford it will be hit the hardest. The people who haven't got driveway and everything.
I think they should have solved that first, 100%, Kev.
So it's interesting you mentioned that. There is actually some stuff in the budget. We may be deviating a little bit here to do with charging. So there was some as much as a lot of the headlines were talking about this per paper mile thing. There's a load of tax-based support for energy bills next year, which is very much worth talking about in the context of this podcast. Utility companies are paying two lots of fees at the moment. One is for the energy company obligation, which is a scheme where they've got to pay towards improving energy efficiency for low income homes. That ends in April, so that's coming off our energy bills from April. And there's the renewables obligation, and which is paying towards certificates for kind of renewables and so on. That's now going to be 75% funded by tax money. And they reckon that this will bring down the average energy cost of household energy bills by about 150 quid a year next year from April onwards. Now, what's interesting is that anyone who's running an EV obviously will get a bigger chunk off because you're a higher, you'll be above the average. So you'll probably find that will contribute to cheaper costs. Again, it's kind of got lost in the argument that's actually that's a good chunk back then of the mileage charges potentially in a few years' time. So.
Yeah, our energy and gas bill, contract is actually up, I think, at the end of this month. So do you think for someone like me and other people in a similar position should wait until after April?
They're saying that I looked this up and it's saying that they'll have to pass the savings on regardless from April. There's a government-backed scheme.
Okay, that's good. Yeah,
if you're on a fixed price contract, the wording of the consultation on this it's not out for consultation. No, this bit's not actually out for consultation yet. But hang on, I've got the wording here, I think, actually. Yeah, what they'll do with that is that they will, they're going to, you'll have to pass it on through your energy bills, even if you're on a fixed price thing. So
no, cool. Just worth highlighting, Lewis has just mentioned it. We've got a vertical format, and we've got a portrait and landscape format. So it'd be interesting to see who's watching what and what they prefer. If you're watching your phone like this, obviously vertical will be better. If you're watching it on TV, I just thought it might be good for people just to enjoy the display a little bit more. Obviously completely irrelevant on Spotify, although there is the video there as well. So thanks, Lewis, for highlighting that. I think I worked out that petrol is 6p a mile in fuel duty, so EV is still half price in tax. I did the maths on the costs. Lewis, again, I did the maths. I did the maths. Cost of the tax. EV is 2p a mile plus 3p in tax. For my maths, 50 miles per gallon at 1.30 a litre, 6p a mile. Okay, thanks for highlighting that and giving us the working out. Roland, I can see it being in advance based on insurance declaration, then a level up or down at the MOT, which could then hit your insurance if you do more miles than declared. 12p a mile for petrol, 6p is pure tax. Thanks for that, Lewis. Chris Creasy, given EVs should gradually take over pay per mile, will also take over. Sorry, EVs should gradually take over the pay per mile, will also take over. Sorry, I don't know if I've read that wrong. Charging 3 pence per mile on ICE would probably cause riots. So trickle it onto EVs now. It's like freezing tax thresholds. We're nearly done on the comments. Automobile literally means self-moving. Socialists put the collective before the self. I don't disagree. Portrait on my phone, landscape on the computer. There we go.
So consultations wise, that's the other thing. We talk about a little bit about public charging costs. One of the things that was also tucked away inside the budget, or two things that are kind of in a similar sphere, one probably slightly further reaching than the other. There'll be a consultation early next year, starts in Q1 2026, ends in Q3. It says the government is already taking action to bring down energy costs, but the price of public EV charging has risen in recent years. The government will review the cost of public EV charging, looking at the impact of energy prices, cost contributors, and options for lowering these costs for consumers. So we are having a couple of things that might start to nibble away at the actual price of charging, even though there's going to be this 3p charge on top. So it wasn't all bad news for EVs, basically. I think everyone got carried away with this kind of very obvious, 3p per mile policy. And actually, a lot of good headlines got buried further down. Also interesting, they're looking at permitted development rights for cross-pavement EV charging, which obviously we've covered on here before. And it's going to make it easier to get for households where they haven't got the ability to park off street, which again starts to solve some of the inequitability problems that we have. So there were some positives, but they were kind of hidden a bit further down the document, and almost like an also ran type thing.
And there's still lots of positivity in terms of funding for, Scottish, Welsh, and other, decarbonisation products. Although I don't like to say decarbonisation because, alternative fuels, hydrogen. I know that Alex and Kevin might have slightly different views, but I think electric, either just be diesel or go to electric and work your way there as technology improves. So, more a fan of the electrification grants myself. Okay, so I don't think there was anything much other than EV unless we were to go into the specific funding, which there is more for fleets and that sort of thing. But FEVs, I think FEVs got a bit of a bad deal, didn't they?
Well, it depends. This is the clever thing. So if you're wealthy enough to make the choice on a thing, you could get yourself a plug-in hybrid. I think the average trip commute is 60 miles.
I know where you're going now, Kev.
There are a number of EVs. So just for example, if I chose to game the system, I could get something like one of the Emoda or Jaikus that will do, say, 90 miles, or Cherry that will do 90 miles to a single charge. I could pay 1.5 pence and not touch the fuel and then not really think about it on a long trip because it'll be so rare. So actually, you give people who have the ability to make that choice, and they could game the system. So you could have your local EV and stuff, or you could just, I think it might have if you game it, you could get an EV that could save you money, half the price.
Have you done the maths though, Kev, on the efficiency difference between a Model Y long-range rear-wheel drive versus the JQ to see if that 1.5 pence per mile would make the difference?
So when I've tested the Emoda 9, which is a big four-wheel drive, it's doing similar efficiency to any of the electric cars, so it'll do 3.5.
I didn't just say any, Kev. And I know you've got the Tesla Model Y full drive coming up soon for a test drive, so maybe we should do the maths after you've given it the Kevin Booker experience.
It's an interesting concept that some people, like any system, will game it, and that differential does give them the ability to game it, whereas you'd think actually, to make it fair, you'd set it exactly the same because you're either using one fuel or the other. So, but basically then you'd have to define what powertrain you're using, wouldn't you? So that's the difficulty is how, and that's another complexity of the system. If it's just going to be self-declared in a MOT centre, it's not going to really make, I don't know, it's difficult, isn't it? They're just doing it by theories. It's really, you'd need to be fair to declare which mileage you were doing on which powertrain.
It's blunt, but then I suppose arguably you could say the same about VED in general. I mean, you can't drive two cars at the same time. So if you're in a position where you're, somebody like me who has a car in the garage, a cherished car in the garage, another car on the drive, I can't drive them both at the same time. I pay VED on both of them. The pay per mile or pay per kilowatt hour or pay per litre is the fairest way of taxing stuff. But it's not an easy thing to implement.
In reality, you should say actually pay per mile should replace all the other existing systems.
Yes. Yeah.
It should be a one or other. So no VED because you got pay per mile. And it's just, again, mixing two different systems, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Malcolm's just made a point, obviously, extra servicing costs on BEV that might negate the differences there, depending on the age of vehicle you go for, of course. So I can't remember, I think it was R. Simmons. So Richard was making a point that he's got all the solar panels and he's got the batteries, and why am I having to pay for VED for petrol or diesel because I'm generating my own electricity? Do you think that has anything to do with them going down the route of pay per mile instead of putting extra money on your electric charger and checking it for a smart charger?
Yeah, I don't know. I think to me this feels like a kind of a knee-jerky kind of position where they've there's all sorts of stuff knocking around about EVs at the moment. I mean, there has been ever since Labour have been in power. There was that big report last year about company car schemes and how they're basically putting vehicles into the hands of people who are quite well paid anyway and so on. I think this feels like this is not going to cost them critical votes doing something like this, it's a fairly, people will grumble about it, and then it will just get passed through, and people just pay it, because that's. And I was saying the same about there was rumours going around that they were going to remove the 40-year exemption on VED for classic cars.
Really?
And that did a massive rumble around. It hasn't happened. And I was like, yeah, but the reality of it is that what will happen is they'll do that, and people just go, yeah, it's more tax, and they'll just pay it. And that's the problem, is that the people, we don't riot in the streets necessarily when this stuff happens. There's not going to be a march on Westminster with angry EV owners talking about the 3p per mile tax. They'll just pay it. It's an easy win, really, isn't it?
Well, ironically, my TVR's just turned 40 years old. Not that I'll get away with the tax or MOT, because it's a highly modified vehicle, but I did go and see it today. And we've got a video coming out Wednesday if I get my butt into gear and edit it in time, if anyone's interested in watching that. So, okay, so there was interesting news about Motability. That wasn't part of the budget, was it?
No, it wasn't, no.
No. Did we cover that last week?
No, that came out a couple of days before the budget, I think, didn't it?
Yeah, it might be worth highlighting that. So, yeah, anyone that's got a car on Motability, they're reducing the total price, aren't they? They're making sure that it's less of a premium vehicle and more of a modest vehicle. Is that probably the best way of putting it?
But the reality is, I mean, there's this that's kind of inferring that, say, a large like Volkswagen or something is not a luxury vehicle compared to like a basic A-Class or a basic A3. I mean, are either of those, is an A1 a luxury vehicle just because it's got an Audi badge on the front?
Are they going after OEMs instead of total price then, retail price?
I haven't seen enough on this.
They did mention
specifically Mercedes.
Yeah, she specifically mentioned the brand Mercedes, and it's like, as you say, it's like I've looked when I've been looking at cars. Now, sometimes, very often, the Audi is cheaper than the Volkswagen. But does that mean you exclude Audi, but keep Volkswagen in, when actually a Volkswagen ID.5 is more expensive than an Audi? It's a very, I don't know, it's very. I mean, I think, again, it's one of these knee-jerk things, because on the grand scheme of things, it makes very little difference, because a lot of them are, big beneficiaries of Motability at brands like MG, and you're not going to call, maybe the IM brands luxury, but, they're ordinary cars. Your Renaults, your Dacias, your Rifters and stuff like that. They're all that. I mean, it's just, I think it's a distraction just to get people's attention, because actually in the grand scheme of things, it's not going to be that. And as you know from leasing companies and stuff, sometimes there's much more favorable deals on some of these brands. So actually, in reality,
because of residuals,
residuals, and I mean, all of this, a lot of it comes to me as if it's been designed by someone who's not familiar with the automotive market. They're not. It's knee-jerk things. They've not looked into it. They've not gone to specialists in that field.
No. Lewis is coming for you, Alex. He says that you're he is respiratory. I don't know what's wrong with me today. I can't even speak. But he's basically coming after your stench and harmful fumes coming out of that Polo. I must admit, I didn't smell too many fumes out of Alex's Polo when he come to see me. But my TVR Griffith was atrocious. But that's what happens when you got 4 extra cylinders and about 3 extra litres. But sorry, Alex, I got in there.
No, mine's not. Mine's still within the age where it's not gonna. Where I've never been exempt from it anyway. But it's not old enough yet. It is Euro 1 compliant though, believe it or not.
There we go. So, what was that on Fev from? Was it the big rate for company cars on Fevs? There was something big with that, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was, but it had already been announced. So there's it's worth recapping because it came up. It has come up a little bit this week because there was another thing as well, Fev related, which had come up. There's we mentioned this I think a few months ago when they were talking about it, but the latest round of Euro 6 emissions rules are going to basically reduce the CO2 impact of having a long electric range. So it assumes that a lower percentage of the overall miles is going to be on electric, and therefore you get higher CO2 figures. But Brexit means that we don't have to adopt it in the UK, and So we're not. But obviously, most manufacturers are not testing cars specifically for the UK. So they've got an option of when they have to retest their entire model range by the end of this year, which will push all the CO2 figures up. But in the UK, they can still sell them under the old test figures, or they can convert them back, which we've done. We've been through this headache before with when it moved to WLTP testing like nearly a decade ago. It's a mess, but basically there's going to be an easement, they call it, on company car tax, where it allows people it allows them to use the old CO2 figures for plug-in hybrids, and that lasts until I think that's 2028 as well. So April 2028, plug-in hybrids get hit with a 1.5p per mile charge, and also get hit with this, a sudden hike in company car tax. And on top of that, at the moment there's 7, I think, different bands under 50 grams based on your electric range of company car tax, and they go almost down to the same level as in fact they do go down to the same level as EVs. If you're they go very, very low anyway. There's nothing down at that level, but if you've got a really, really long electric range, you get lower company car tax. From April 2028 they all go on to a higher band, which is going to be much higher than EVs at that point. Still much lower than anything else, but a triple whammy in April 2028, which is not that far away, and some of those vehicles are going to be already on the road. So the owners of those vehicles are going to get hit quite hard in probably the last year or so they've got them.
Now, I don't know, I'm the same as everyone else, but I do love trying to find a little bit of a loophole, especially when it comes to cars. So, finding a car that not only is efficient, cheaper to service, maintain, and from a tax point of view. And I think that Alex and Kev are the same on this as well. Hopefully purchase a car that doesn't have a choke, Trevor, but thanks for your comment. I hope you're enjoying the videos.
Thought of the ideal solution for you, Tim, that's not been affected by any of these tax changes. If you're to get a Dieselgate era car, they're still going to be £30 road tax.
Well, the only way I could possibly drive one of those is if I could generate a nice enough HVO myself to put into the said diesel. That I did buy a diesel. I did tell everyone last week I bought a diesel. It's now gone. It's gone to Northern Ireland. So that's what I've done. A bit of a service for England. I've moved the diesel far off over to Northern Ireland.
The interesting thing is, with those kind of era diesels, you're not going to be putting cooking oil in them without some major refinement, because they're modern enough to have quite precise injectors. So
just get a 306 turbo diesel, that'll be fine. Old technology, can't go wrong. What about, a bit of a loophole. Let's see if we can come up with a few here now, right? I was thinking, what about an i3 Rex, and then get Avidas, who we had on the chat a while back, do a battery swap on it, increase the battery size, make it more efficient, all the rest of it. That is that still classed as a plug-in hybrid?
Plug-in hybrid, yeah, because it's not 0 grams.
So there we go. I think that's the loophole. Can anybody else on the chat now? We've got quite a few people, which is always good to see. Anyone think of any other loopholes that anyone's been thinking about? That's the loophole for me. And the slightly illegal one, which is I just drive tri-key everywhere, which is probably not advisable. So yeah, can you guys think of anything in terms of a bit of a loophole to maximize efficiency and reduce costs? Sinclair C5 maybe?
Well, aside from a drill and winding the clocks back, you mean? I've only done 6 miles since my last MOT.
I mean, that does raise a valid point. Is this going to increase the use of people going online and buying mileage blockers?
Of course it is.
I think maybe that's why they've included the MOT station, because what a lot of people don't realize with mileage blockers is that cars now store their odometer reading in multiple locations in the car, including the ECU. But then if you're going down that level, that's going to be, it's going to be a chargeable service, isn't it? If your MOT tester has to put in a diagnostic thing to read your mileage.
There's also ways and means without breaking the law, which is you could stick slightly higher profile tires on and increase the rolling radius of your vehicle.
And that's actually someone did raise
so
that.
you would do your car would think you had done fewer miles than you actually had. Each rotation of the wheel would take you further than factory.
So basically, I need to find some.
You need to put some big wheels. Buy your EV on consumer advice from YEV here. Buy your EV on small wheels, and fit larger wheels to them. Yeah.
But then you could argue doing the efficiency things, you're messing your efficiency up, so you're using more electricity.
Well, yeah, there is that. Yeah, but I don't think you'd
But
be doing 3 feet a mile.
I mean, that is the problem, though. Is it's not just that. Just legitimately, tires, the mileometer or odometer will be out, pretending when your tires are new and worn. And
well,
this is the thing. Odometer, and they're not.
You'll get higher per mile charges towards the end of your tires. You'll have people going in to replace their tires more often to keep the tire cost down. I don't. Yeah. It's an expensive way to avoid a 3p per mile charge, isn't it?
You can get a lift kit for the Tesla. So I was thinking like off-road tires, but that's not efficient. So yeah, maybe I should just go.
Are you going to have the UK's first donked Tesla?
I was thinking that would be quite cool to have like bull bar on the front, like metal, proper off-road styling. They do it in America already. I mean, they're a bit ahead on that. I love the fact that Mod Scotsman, hello buddy, 40-year-old tax-exempt car, converted to electric. Don't tell the TVLA.
Actually, you saying about big wheels,
My crystal ball was working 5 years ago. Sorry, Kev.
I've had a thought about big wheels. I'm guessing that Chris Ramsey, who did pole to pole, his speedometer and odometer is going to be out massively from that trip because those wheels were a bit bigger than factory.
So Malcolm's going to be driving everywhere in reverse. Not a bad shout, actually. Surely drive by wire, put the steering wheel the other way around, be fine on it. And electric cars can go as fast backwards as they can forwards, right? Theoretically. I've got 2 hamsters on wheels in mine. Perfect. What about miles done in the EU on holiday? We did kind of touch on that earlier, but I don't think
it's part of your year. Yeah, it won't differentiate. It's part of your yearly mileage, and also if you it's to do with where the car's registered as well. So if you've got a vehicle that's not in the UK if you've got a vehicle registered in, say, France, and it's not over here if it's only over here for periods of less than 6 months, you would avoid that as well.
Yeah, why don't we just get
It'd be like Calais. Calais will be like a little area, and you just have to British EV owners driving right-hand drive French plated cars in and out of a car park every 6 months to take it back.
Surely, surely if you're on foreign plates.
Yeah.
I mean, this is getting it's not even grey anymore.
No, it's completely impractical. But yeah, it's
For the saving of £300,
combine it with a booze cruise. That's the way to do it. Go out there, fold your seats down, do a lap of the car park, get your booze, and come back home.
Yeah, it's not a bad shout. Not a bad shout at all.
It does raise the issue that do we need to have cars that have, because mileometers are not calibrated. I mean, is that something OEMs should have to do? Because you could have an awful one. Because I did read somewhere they can be out by up to 5% anyway.
I'm going to have to bring out the document for this because I have a feeling that was actually in the consultation document. Give me just 1 sec.
Oh, okay, interesting. Let me just rattle these off then. Motability, so commuter branch lines, but Motability is all about optics. Hopefully not putting optics in your car with lots of spirits. That'd be quite nice. Had that at uni many years ago. Probably a bit of a waste of money. And a waste of liver. The PSNI armoured car fleet is 99% Skoda, which had to be modified aftermarket. BMW's armoured cars from the factory would have been much cheaper, but look extravagant. Interesting point. Chinese large battery FEVs could prove popular. Yeah, but I don't think anybody with much sound. It just seems a bit of a waste putting a large battery in a vehicle with an engine as well. I think, like BMW Rexes and stuff like that, just a little top up. I don't mind, but I know Kev's a big fan of the FEVs after his amazing feat of like 400 miles on a, what was it? What was the stats, Kev? Please share them. I don't want to get it wrong.
So I did a round trip, that was just using rapid charging. I did over nearly 400-mile road trip in a plug-in hybrid without using the engine, using the rapid charge at 70 kilowatts. What I wouldn't want to do is I don't want to look at my bank balance of how much that actually cost me rapid charging that car. I would imagine it probably would have been a bit cheaper to do that.
What was the total range you got out of it, though?
It was 90 miles for the first charge.
Yep.
And then it slowed down for the charging. So it was about 90 miles to a full charge. So it's 270 miles and 290 miles. And then
That's
a little bit more.
So, sorry, mate. Say again.
Yep. So I've just seen the comment then. So.
All right. So Derek's just put speedometers and therefore odometers overread. The government should take 10% off your mileage. A 10% discount. Black Friday deal. Personally, I'll just pay unless it goes up substantially. What are you going to do then, Mark? Are we going to leave the country?
So the consultation says, as EVED will be integrated into the VED system, the registered keeper will be responsible for providing an accurate mileage reading and making payments for EVED. This includes taking reasonable steps to ensure that the odometer is functioning correctly and the data provided is accurate. So as the registered keeper, you are responsible under this system. And my God, this is out of the realms of kind of even contemplation for, I would imagine, most motorists, for making sure that your odometer is actually reading the mileage accurately.
Well, what some might say that if you read into it in some detail and you found out that your speedometer overreads by 5%, your due duty would be actually to reduce the number that you offer to the government to make sure it's accurate, fair, and all the rest of it, surely.
And I can only think of one, I can think of off the top of my head, one organization that has calibrated speedos, the police. The police's speedos are all calibrated, so they don't overread. Therefore, that should mean their odometer is accurate because it's taking it from the same data source.
I don't necessarily...
If you have an ex-police car, the mileage is pretty certain to be bang on because it will have had a calibrated speedo.
I'm pretty sure I can't get a policeman to follow me all the time, but it's after me again.
You can tell he owns a Tesla, can't you? He loves the soundboard.
Hey, that was the first time I've done it after 52 minutes.
Yeah, no, I'm impressed. I'm legitimately impressed.
Thank you very much.
Oh,
now you got me started now. Sorry.
Just seen Mark's comment.
No, because I'm on the wrong bit. Hang on, media assets. Here we go. What's Mark put? If it goes up too much, just get a plane. No VAT, no fuel duty.
Well, I'm just curious because most helicopters take the same fuel if it's a turbine one. So would that be included as well? Bit more practical to take a helicopter everywhere, surely, than a plane you need somewhere long to land it.
Everyone's seen those single-seater drones, right? I mean, how much are they? Surely an AliExpress spec. It'd be like that one out of Mad Max 2 with no sides. You know, the helicopter where he throws the snakes at people.
That's where we got Mini Kev delivered from, right? One of the little eVTOL. Just dropped him off.
Gyrocopter. Yeah.
Write the theme tune. Sing the theme tune. Yeah.
No, I'm sure he was delivered in a Pelican beak, wasn't he? Anyway, sorry, Kev. So Lewis has put, I wonder if the manufacturers will start competing on underestimating distance traveled. What could they get away with? Well, I think VW might lead that one. E-Tripping, good to see you commenting, mate. Would be that keen to buy a second-hand EV from 2028 due to digital clocking? Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is why I think Tesla's the way forward. You know, the stuff that you can do with them is amazing. 1, 2, 5, 10%. Oh, yeah, I see what you mean. Mod Scotsman, Vitols might actually have a selling point. Vitols? What's he mean by that?
Vertical takeoff and landing.
Oh, yes. Okay, sorry. I didn't know the acronym. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, absolutely. I think maybe we should find a price for next week to share. Did anyone see the JQ and Amoda are paying the first 20,000 miles of tax if you buy one of their cars?
Good. Chinese manufacturers are so aggressive with kind of matching, you know, like pricing and stuff. I mean, the deals in terms of kind of making sure that you've got an equivalent to the electric car grant, which has also been extended as part of the budget.
I just think, again, on the electric car grant, there's more needed on used.
Yes, that's
I
a
mean,
really good point. Yeah,
I don't really go out and think, with some of the car, I don't think, oh, is the grant on it? I just think, how much is it going to cost me to lease and stuff? And it's most of the stuff that I've looked at doesn't have the grant on it. I think used needs to have help, because otherwise you're going to have this glut of cars, oversupply, not enough demand. You need more stuff. I think they should have mentioned something about some sort of state back kind of get battery assurance thing to make sure that there's a standard, and something about, helping people buy used EVs, like Scotland with the interest-free loan on that. That's something, because actually you find as well, if you look at finance deals, generally a used car finance deal is significantly higher interest than a new one, because they're taking some of the profits off the car. So I think this should have been something done on used EVs, not necessarily more grants on new EVs.
Yeah, no, I agree. Used. I was going to get this in actually. There's so many good deals at the moment. My next door, another neighbour of mine, he's a lot further away, a massive EV hater. He's just bought a BMW iX for his wife, small battery, £99,000 brand new. He bought it for £30,000, and I don't think it's like 2 or 3 years old. It's got the ivory leather. It's got this hardened carbon. You name it, it's got it on it. And he took me out. And it was quick as well for the small battery. I was quite impressed.
I want to hate the iX. I think it's a big ugly vehicle, but actually it is a very, very impressive car. I really don't like it, and I don't think I could ever own one. But completely objectively, it's a very, very good car. Apart from the fact that it's massive and it's only got 2 rows of seats. But in terms of a statement of being, it's quite zeitgeisty, isn't it?
Yeah, I like the design of it. I think it's like in your face. And when I first saw it, I was like, ugh. I think it's a bit of a grower. But you said I can take it out, so I'll probably do a little review on it actually, because it just interests me, especially like a massive deal on that. And people will say, oh, don't buy an EV, but it was probably a lease deal again. So someone's actually taken advantage of the good deal there, and he got it from a BMW owner as well. So Malcolm Zoe is identifying as a diesel. Oh my goodness.
They've de-chinched the iX as well post facelift, which is quite interesting. Some of the stuff inside, they've kind of toned down some of the, all the little switches on the doors. They remind me of like nicotine stained gems from like a kind of an old hotel like chandelier.
Yeah.
And they're kind of nicotine yellow. And they're, sorry,
Swarovski or something like
Swarovski. Yeah. People that make the Sparko, aren't they?
Yeah, the people who make the chargers.
Yeah. Oh, really? Okay.
Swarovski's business brand.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I actually quite like the sound of the BMW as well. I know it's like an orchestra thing. It actually does sound pretty cool, although it's not the outside annoying people, unlike some people. So Chris Creasy. Sorry, say again, Kev.
Not a pretty car though.
No, but I quite like it for that. Because not everything has to be pretty. Chris Creasy 007. I agree. I think 3p per mile should only apply to cars after, say, 2025 to help used prices. That's a really good idea, Chris. Really good, like that. That would help early adopters who have suffered more depreciation. Yeah, that's a good shout. Very good shout. Right, I think we are drawing to a close. So let's just have a little summary of what we've been up to, what we're doing next week. If you guys don't mind, I'll start it off. So as people might have noticed, I've been busy with the videos recently. 2 out in a week, and I've got one coming out Wednesday, which is update on the TVR. Other than that, working digging very deep in the large commercial world of electrification. So, Alex Squirrel Grant, what have you got going on?
I'm afraid mostly Secret Squirrel stuff. I had a bit of an interesting one last week, in that I ended up with a very ill mocker. It got to the school run on Tuesday, and it threw up a ton of error codes and ended up being recovered by the RAC, unfortunately. But it was a 12-volt battery issue, and it's been fixed, and it's fine, and all the rest of it. But it still amazes me that cars this smart, where you're kind of connecting to them through your smartphones and kind of doing all sorts of bits and all the clever things that they do, and they can't think to kind of cleverly top up their 12-volt battery when they're sat idle for a bit.
Or have a better technology than a 12-volt lead-acid battery.
All that, yeah.
Surely there's a better technology now. You've got a better technology that sits for the traction battery, yet they can't think of a better technology for... I understand the 12-volt because it's probably laziness, because you could use headlights off other cars and stuff like that. But surely there's a better way of doing it.
There's always a way. There's always a way.
There's a will. What about yourself, Kev?
So from tomorrow, I'm testing the Model Y long range with the new battery in it. So that's the all-wheel drive one, which actually at the moment the all-wheel drive goes further than the two-wheel drive, because the all-wheel drive one has been fitted with the bigger battery. What size battery it is, no one knows, because Tesla don't quote the size of their batteries.
Even Tesla are being secret squirrel. They're copying Alex this week. Jesus.
Yeah.
Trendsetter.
What's the WLTP of that, Kev?
300 and something. I think it's about 380. It's pretty good. It might
Sounds
be actually 392, I think.
Isn't it mad that Tesla doesn't talk about this stuff now, considering early on Tesla were very big on putting the kilowatt-hour capacity of their batteries on the back of the cars? Like Model S was always, the launch ones were like 85 or 60. Then you had the 60 and the 75. Yeah, they were always, and the P100s and all the other, they were all big on the kilowatt-hour battery capacity. And now it's hidden away and not talked about at all.
They probably forgot because they're focusing too much on robots now, taking over the world. Probably.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, and I've also got the Green Fleet Awards in Coventry on Thursday. So I'm there. So see which brands win.
Nice. Cool. Well, everyone, thank you very much for taking part and listening. And we'll see you next week. And take care of yourselves and get that efficiency up.